The button has been pressed. We are live. Hello, everyone. I am Alan, and this is Chris, and that is Will. And then there's a kind of like empty zone either side of them where other people might arrive or not. Who knows? We are the open source team at Anchore, and we work on some incredible security tools that you may have heard of, and if you haven't, they're on the screen right now. It's Syft and Grype. And we go through a bit of open source maintenance while you watch and listen, or both. Is there anything any of you chaps have got to bring up urgently at the start, or shall I just dive in and you can shout numbers at me and we'll do whatever comes up?
I have a bit of a PSA. Some of you, if you're watching or if you've tuned in, I've definitely commented on your pull request and said, hey, we're going to get back to it at this live stream and discuss it. If we don't get to it, if there are too many chunked together, then I apologize. I'll make note that we didn't get to it. I'll come on the pull request and I will give you the full feedback that I can do and tag the other team members. This is just for consensus and kind of talking through some sticky issues that we couldn't get from a single solo PR review. So thank you for attending and thank you for coming through. And if after this meeting you feel that your comment or your pull request or your issue has not been addressed, GitHub notifications is the best way to reach specifically me. Just at SPIFCS, I will go in, I will touch it, I will talk to you, and I apologize for the length of time or shortness or getting to it. We're just trying to get to everyone, but we very much thank you for your investment and time you take to look at our projects and work on them. So thank you again.
Thanks for that, Chris. I know, like from the comments we get on other calls that we do with people, that people do, appreciate the work that you do. So don't apologise and beat yourself up too hard. The thing I wanted to mention there, actually, you've just made me think. Saving up these conversations for like 1 hour on a Thursday, it might make sense at some point for us to just do the fast approach of jumping on a Zoom call, recording it, and then stuffing that out online and attaching it to the bottom of an issue. If people want to see a conversation and like see the whole, rationale behind why we did something, then recording a 10-minute or whatever conversation for one issue might be a good course of action. If you can get the right people, in a little Zoom call quickly, just record the thing, and then we'll just chuck it online and stick it in the comment underneath the issue. Might be a way to.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, faster feedback loops on just informal conversations that we have amongst each other being posted. We can explore what that looks like. There are some like workflow constraints that I'd want to look at as far as just not disrupting how we normally do it. But yeah, definitely a good idea.
Sweet. Hi, Dan. Thank you for joining us. We have some things to do. As always, you'll find us on GitHub, github.com/anchor. And we've got a little discourse where we post news and stuff. We have some items in that I just saw some things disappear there. I saw that. Henry Sachs has joined in the chat. Hello, Henry. Nice to see you. Is there any that anyone would like to pick off or would like me not to click on?
I think I put a couple of needs discussion on a few PRs under Syft to start, and then a few of the issues as well. So if we could go through those first, I'm definitely primed to talk about a few of those. And also I told people that we would maybe look at these if we could.
Right. Any in particular?
I think a different view would be, let's go to the Syft repository real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go to the pull requests and just filter by needs discussion, because I think I started at the top and just kind of went through to try to find the ones that could be blocked and need a bit extra. Yeah, let's start with that Windows path, and then we'll keep going through from there.
So thanks for that, Chris. This is Syft 4075. I'll pop that in the old Chatterloodle. If I can find the link to it. My chat has disappeared. Sorry, 4075 on Syft. There you go.
Yeah, so we don't have to do a PR review like in live. Everyone look at this code. I looked at it earlier this week and I gave the thumbs up. It looks good to me. Dan, Keith's not here. I think he had something that he had to go through, but has he talked to you a bit about his cross builds work for Syft and how and getting Syft running on Windows? He was the one I wanted to talk to the most about this one, and if this conflicted with any of his cross build stuff.
He has, but only at a very abstract level. I would hesitate to have enough context to answer that question. Probably need Keith.
Okay, so then if you're the PR issuer here, if you're Lusantos HCIT, Keith is kind of like the last line of defense on this one. I double checked the from POSIX function. Everything is calling under a guard of are we running on Windows? So this wouldn't affect like our Linux or OS X or any of our other like architecture distributions of Syft. The last kind of check I just wanted like a fuzzy feel good from this meeting was, hey Keith, you're doing cross build stuff. If we merge this, does this blow up any of your plans? I'm going to get him to comment asynchronously on this one to say yes or no on that. And if not, we'll get this merged in and because it does fix the problem that you're trying to solve as far as us not proceeding to do the directory scan and file paths for the actual UNC Windows paths that we don't like. We're not supporting this correctly with based on how we're translating them to POSIX paths and back. So thank you for finding that, and thank you for filing the fix.
Is this related to the whole like network, like Samba shares and stuff like that, where they have like / server name / share name and files underneath that kind of path?
Yeah, there's like // like localhost and then C kind of like the volume itself. And
Right.
then there's other like network drives or you'd say like network address hosts that you could like scan that you could resolve if you were using the just pure Go implementation of the paths. And that is where he's having, or this user's having the issue. It's like dir / localhost C, where it's selecting the C drive, but that localhost blob is just blowing us up. So
Nice. I haven't run a Windows machine for a while. I certainly, I remember being in enterprise locations where you would, / share out C, your local C drive and get shouted at by people. But I'm sure it's the right thing to do in the circumstance. Cool. Do you want to leave a short comment on the bottom of that, or have you already done that?
yeah, I left one for the live stream. I have a whole list of the ones that I had flagged for this meeting, so I'll go back through them after this and just follow up with our conclusions. This one was shorter than I thought since Keith's not here. Let's go to the next one, maybe.
Yep. Which one? Migrate Syft to archives instead of Anchore fork. What?
This one, unfortunately,
this was going to
be this was going to be a ferrying up to the Alex Goodman question. But Will, has Alex ever talked to you about this fork or why we have it? I was racking my brain. I couldn't find anything about the archiver fork and why we did
So
it.
the reason we have it is that the there was like a zip slip kind of CVE reported against the version of the upstream of this fork, and Alex went back and forth with the maintainer a while and wasn't able to get a fix merged upstream, so we forked it and patched it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know too many details there. I think maybe that was reported against an older version that the developer wasn't interested in maintaining anymore. But the APIs aren't very similar between the older version and the newer version, so we couldn't simply upgrade. So it seemed like the right thing to do. It seems like maybe this pull request is trying to work around those limitations. And sort of do the legwork to like actually migrate us to the supported thing, which would let us archive the fork. I don't know enough about it. This might be another the right team member is not on the call today issue, unfortunately.
That's okay.
I haven't. That's all the context I have is we depend on the fork because we couldn't get a security fix upstreamed, and migrating was a pain, and this PR claims to resolve it, migrating being a pain, but I don't know whether it succeeds.
Yeah, I tried. I gave an hour of trying to like go through this, and I just didn't have the history or like what the vulnerability was and like what forked behavior we had added that wasn't existing upstream that didn't get merged in. So by the time I'd gotten to like thread number 4, I was just like, I know Alex has context for it because he's the one who did this side of the work. So I was going to use this time to ask him, but unfortunately, everyone's kind of been pulled in a couple different directions today. So apologies, Rupik. When we have more time, we'll re-examine this pull request and getting it in. But until then, it's just hard to context switch into loading this and figuring out if it should go across the line or not. And it's an important thing that we don't want to get wrong because it had to do with the security fix. It had to do with us doing our own fork, writing functionality into it that Syft now supports for. I think it was unarchiving a certain like nested module or some type. And then obviously over the past year or so, the repository has moved forward and we're just not familiar with what the new functionality is and how adopting it would break or enhance Syft.
Was this was this one of those zip slip security?
Yeah. That was one of those. So for the listeners, zip slip is like a class of vulnerability where you trick a thing that's unpacking an archive into writing to a path that's like outside the target, so it ends up like writing to a file elsewhere on the system. The upstream archiver had one of those. There was one of our team members sent them a PR. There was a whole lot of back and forth, and the thread sort of went dead. So thank you, Rupik. This seems like it would be really helpful because it's not our intention to like maintain a fork of an old decompression zip file handler forever. It was just the most expedient thing at the time. So I hope we can get that in, but the person who needs to review it isn't on the call today. So
especially since the mholt archiver project from which our fork was forked is actually gone, right? That's archived. Like the new overused word. It's gone.
Yeah.
But now it's archived. So
I think. Go ahead.
That's just underscoring. Like, thank you, Rubik, for.
And this is we really appreciate that because this is the sort of like it makes life easier to maintain, right? It's a repo we can get rid of, and it's that this is the sort of contribution that getting it in will make life a lot easier for us. So I hope we're able to get it in soon. Thank you.
It's also, I hope the audience recognizes how we view it as like, we want the right person to look at it who had the context for when this event happened. And because it has the zip slip associated with it, we just want to make sure we're making the right decision. We know right now with the fork, we're good and we've adopted that and we've been safe. And we want to be safe when we move to it. And we want to take the time to do it the right way as far as the migration and accepting the PR. So thank you.
Can I play devil's advocate and say this one was the new version of archives from mholt? Like, it's kept up to date, and I don't know, does it? No, it doesn't have a security policy. Would it be like sensible to just the minimal like look around and see if like this thing has had any issues reported against it and see how well this is now being maintained? And is there a lot to do to turn this around other than like test it and like the code review?
So I think I think we need to convince ourselves of two things to merge the pull request. We need to convince ourselves that Syft still works just fine with the new library because it wasn't like shaped exactly like the old library. There's some adapting going on. And Syft does a ton of handling of different types of archives and different types of file systems and stuff. So there's some convincing ourselves it still works there. And then there's also convincing ourselves that the new library doesn't have the security issues that we forked the old library over. So I like those things can and should be done. I don't know if they can and should be done during a live stream.
No, I'm not suggesting we do that now. I was just speculating, like, you know, what the body of work and the next steps, and like other than like peering inside Alex's head, what other things would there be?
Yeah,
I think for me, where I got blocked when I was trying to solo this and give it like the confident yes thumbs up as a maintainer, no thumbs down without doing the team, was I understood how the user here was going from archiver to archives, but then I didn't have a full sense of the entire like parts of Syft that might also be using the old archiver code. I couldn't convince myself that we had fully ripped out the old archiver and that we were using the new archives. And because of that, I didn't. There was either something that was being used in stereoscope. There was some hidden path that I couldn't find. There, like I spent a lot of time, but I didn't. I basically couldn't get to the end of that journey of figuring out if we had done the fully find and replace. Like, yes, this PR is correct in that way. I could only see, hey, CI is passing, which is great. Like that is a great and significant green fuzzy feeling for this. But I am the first to admit that there are a lot of probably edge cases that we do not cover. Our CI would run for years, days, if we covered like as many of those like CLI integration level testing. So getting more of those warm fuzzies around certain like edge cases and certain archiver types that we would be putting Syft against would then give me like the single solo, yes, I'm going in to do this. So it has nothing to do with the quality of the PR. It looks good. It's easily readable. It's more of just the unknown unknowns of like how Syft is handled that I didn't feel quite confident enough to give the thumbs up before talking with the team, specifically Alex.
Is there I am appreciating I am beating this horse to death, but is there a process we could go through to, suck information out of Alex's head? I realize, anytime we sit here and talk to Alex on this live stream, we are getting information out of Alex's head. And thankfully, I can throw that at AI and get a summary of it, which is quite nice. Is this just one of those things that happens when you have a developer that's been around since the start of a project and has been involved in so many of the code changes in such a complex piece of software that depends on a bunch of other complex pieces of software? Is it just inevitable that you're going to have kind of a little bit of silo knowledge in one place or another? I'm not a developer, so that's why I'm asking.
I don't think we're saying no one besides Alex can ever review this. I think we're saying no one besides Alex can speak to this more specifically in the next 45 minutes.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, the opportunity cost of going into this would be a meeting plus next week plus the week after that, and then and then we might understand it all together.
Wonderful. Thank you. Right. There was another one, wasn't there, that you picked out?
Yeah, this is the last one, and this one came back in May, and I think this one is one we can all do together, which is good.
3932 on Syft. Sorry, I just have to say that for the bots.
All right, let me go to the bottom because I left the comment of what I said. Okay, so if you look at my like little to-do list that came out on my comment on this one at the very bottom from 2 days ago.
Sorry, I was doing 3 other things then.
Oh, that's totally okay.
This one.
I looked at the user's PR and I just went, okay, is this doing the thing that it said it is? And I thought I was like the environment variable binding was not set up correctly. I thought the configuration wasn't mapped together. Turns out I was totally holding it wrong, and I was using the wrong Syft build, which happens from time to time when you have multiple Syfts just hanging out around that you're testing. And so that looks good. I validated that the environment variables could be exported correctly. Syft config now shows the new options. What are these new options and what's happening to the SBOM? This is not affecting the default SBOM output. This is not affecting, like if I merge this in and ran Syft, main tomorrow, you would get exactly what you get today. These are options or variables that you can enhance and turn on that give Syft 2 new things. One is a deterministic UUID across runs, right? So it doesn't change. It just is actually just like saying, I am creating this and in place, it's not changing. And the other one is a created at timestamp that gets injected into the document because we like the things to be stateless. We don't want them to always be, you want the IDs and the documents themselves to be stable from run to run. This gives the user that power that they were looking for, that I would say tweaks our own understanding what an SBOM should be, but conforms it into how they want to use it and how they want it to exist in their pipeline. So the functionality works. Life is good. I added some CLI testing to it that just shows that we're getting more or less the same the deterministic UUID output, like at the CLI level, is working. And the docs on the config are also updated. So that all said, this is functional. This is good. I'm going to leave it to the floor to Dan and Will. What do you think about being able to make deterministic SBOMs and adding the options?
Well, I wanted to step back a little and say, what is non-deterministic in the SBOM? Because we try to make a bunch of stuff deterministic, right? We try to say, if you scan the same image, you find the same packages, right? And so it sounds like the two non-deterministic things were the timestamp, which is different every time you run Syft, and some IDs that are being generated. I wasn't sure what IDs are like. What does it mean to have a deterministic UUID? What were we doing before? What is different when we turn this setting on? Chris, I think you may be talking on mute.
Sorry about that. Let me pull up where this is used.
While we're looking, I think the idea of a deterministic SBOM is like, so the idea should be that every time you scan the artifact, you should get the same file. Not just the same listed packages, but like a byte for byte, the same file. Is that the idea?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a good that's a good
How do you enable
representation of that. It should be via the environment variables, or there's like a Syft format nested config also that does it as well. Let me go. If you go to my comment should have the environment variables that you set for it.
And are these set true? Are they Boolean or what?
Yeah, they're both Boolean, or one's Boolean, the other is a Unix timestamp.
Yeah.
I see. So the idea is that there's still going to be a created time in the SBOM. You're just going to pass it in.
Yeah, you're gonna say, instead of running it, and then Syft says created here at n number of milliseconds greater based on like when you ran it, you're gonna say I captured SBOMs at this time, and you're gonna inject it and flush it against the n number of documents that you're generating for, a given timestamp, a given run of it all. It's like glomming all of the documents under a single located like created date, created stamp.
Yeah.
What kind of timestamp is that?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Unix. So you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 should give you like 2009 or something, I think is the.
Oops.
Yeah.
Is that right? I thought.
No, it's a Unix timestamp.
I thought GDM.
So it just looks like a really high. It just looks like a really high number. Is that what you mean? It's just the epoch seconds or the epoch millis?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Okay.
I thought there was I thought that's what you did with my.
Does it automatically convert to that?
Sorry. Yeah, my bad. What's the one?
Also, some terminals do the tricks where they just convert. They see that and they go, I know what that is, and they just automatically upgrade it to human readable. Because let's be super honest. Like, if I read epoch seconds, I would not be able to just be like, yeah, I know that date. I can pinpoint that on the calendar.
I thought there was some way to get date to spit out a Unix timestamp. I'm losing my mind, clearly. All right.
And then,
what do you want? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Something
9.
like that.
9.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. You want it to spit out a
So does this affect all formats?
No, it's just for SPDX.
Thank you for that.
that was their that was also their stipulation, that they're not trying to affect the injectable for Syft core or anything. They just want to do 2 format model for SPDX.
So in theory, if I do that twice, there should be very little difference between these.
Yeah, I think there should be no difference. Maybe you could like sum them both or something.
I think maybe.
Woohoo!
So, yeah. Okay. So those are the same. And then the other bit too, Alan, if you pull up the pull request, what Will's comment was, what happens if I enable deterministic UID? And we can like look at this exact section it's in the file called 2 format model. And then I was just on it. Sorry, pulling up my other monitor. So 2 format model under SPX helpers 88 through 110. Sweet. Yep, keep going up, and we'll see 88.
I saw that. I don't understand off the top of my head. Like, are we? What I would think deterministic UUID meant is that so a UUID is kind of like a random number, right? So this is sort of like always setting the same seed on the random UUID generator, right?
Yeah, because that data on 109 is always the same collection of the same elements, and that's what's being SHA-1'd with the namespace. So that quote again, quote, unique ID that's being set on 109 is repeatedly getting the same value when this is in, but when unique ID, basically when deterministic ID is not, 89 is what fires. If you go up to the top, 86. Yep, sorry, 86. I'm dyslexic with numbers.
Sorry, what do you?
Yep, 2 format model, 86. So yeah, otherwise it's what you said, Will. It's just a random like, here you go. I guarantee this thing won't collide kind of ID.
And this is for like what IDs are these artifact IDs? Is this the okay? So what?
And these aren't artifact IDs per se. This is when this unique ID is getting injected into the document namespace. So the source of the SPDX document. So like, go ahead.
Right, because artifact IDs are already deterministic.
Right, they're shot together.
It's a hash of like package name, package type, package version, that sort of thing. So that was already deterministic. So all that's happening is the source field is the SBOM has an ID. Maybe let me take a look at.
It's a document. It's the document namespace of SPDX that is getting injected with this value. And for every unique run of Syft, the first case is what you outlined. It's the I promise this won't collide random ID. So you could inject the timestamp for the same scan 10 times, and that document namespace would have 10 different IDs. But if you inject the time and you say, I want a deterministic UID, which now I'm thinking, okay, maybe we should rename this option a bit more so it's more clear what's happening. Those 10 runs, you'll get an identical document.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So basically what we're doing is, so I wasn't aware of this, but in an SPDX JSON document, there's a top level key called document namespace that looks like a URI that ends in a UUID. And that UUID Syft used to just choose a random UUID, but now when this is on, we're going to take a SHA-1 a bunch of the data in the SBOM so that if we generate the same SBOM again, we'll have the same document ID again.
That's correct.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. And then
And these are the only
I,
two fields in SPDX that are variable across runs that the user wanted control over.
okay. That's really interesting. I'm curious about the use case. I think intuitively the way I might think about handling, like if I scan the same artifact, I get the same SBOM, is take a digest of the artifact and only scan the artifact if it changes, and otherwise just keep these.
It's worth
Because
mentioning Josh has mentioned in the chat that reproducible build people would like this kind of thing, because if you're going to attach an SBOM to a thing and somebody else does the same build and builds the same SBOM, they're going to get the same SBOM, right?
right, if they have the same version of set. So then I guess one of my
Trust
go
but
ahead.
it can really help a trust but verify type of use.
Right. So I like that idea. Whereas like I give you a container, I give you an SBOM, and you can point Syft at it and diff the SBOM and find no difference. And so then you can be relatively certain. Um, yeah, that's interesting.
It's also worth noting, if you go to the issue that's linked on this PR, there's already a user that goes, "Oh my god, I would love this because we already do it." And so people are like forking around our tool and like doing like said substitutions just to like rip these fields out so that they can get this final result. We would just be enabling them on the front end through the front door of the tool rather than on the backside, which is their post processing our stuff. And
So
yeah,
yeah,
good.
okay, cool. So I think that makes sense. I think one of the things that really tripped me up at first is just the setting being called deterministic UUID, because it's not obvious what that means, like what it means to have a deterministic UUID, what things identify as being deterministic. And it might even make sense to just do deterministic SPDX document namespace. Maybe we can think of something shorter than that because it's a silly amount of typing. And then my other question is, should this be default behavior? Like, why do we pick a random number to put in the heading of SPDX SBOMs every time we're run? Like, why was that the right decision? I don't know. I wasn't here yet. Maybe there's a very good reason. I'm just curious whether that makes sense.
That's a great question. I'm gonna look at the documentation right now and see what their specification says.
Is it only SPDX that has this in inverted commas problem? Like, if I generate a Cyclone DX one, it won't be a problem.
No, there are other fields that are not related to these that over in Cyclone DX probably are unique per run. So there would be probably a sister PR in Cyclone DX for people who wanted deterministic ones of those. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just but I would suspect that there is some diff, whether it's timestamp or otherwise. Let's see, source, intent, examples.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I did.
Wait, what? No, these. What? Let me get rid of the Y.
Yeah, that I think.
Yeah, there's only a few.
Okay, and
yeah,
it's exactly the same
yeah.
thing. We picked a UUID and we put a timestamp in. Okay, that's
I think
interesting.
it's a really good question to ask. Like, should we make the default serial number / namespace UUID deterministic? Because it is a premise we have, right? The Syft native format, we really try hard to make it deterministic in this way, which is one of the reasons it not have a timestamp in it.
Right, and I think that
contrary to the spec, I think it's a legitimate thing to ask, right? Whether it should be the default. I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah, so, and here's the exact documentation for the field for SPDX that we're looking at. I think when this was first implemented, we just go, cool, version 4, random UID, thumbs up. We have great Go libraries that can do that. But then like there's the second part, which is a UID generated from a SHA-1 checksum, known to be unique for this specific document. That's the branch that this user is exercising, right? They're grabbing fields that don't change, summing them, and then generating from that. So like,
Yeah, and like honestly, just thinking about this right now, like in the presence of a dynamic timestamp, I can't really think of a reason why you would ever want for the UUID to also be dynamic. Like if the timestamp didn't exist, I could maybe imagine a use case where it's like, well, I need some way to differentiate. I run SBOM generator right now and I run one an hour later, and I actually want those to be different documents for some reason. I don't know why, but you might. But because the timestamp in there, which represents when you ran the program, now you have that. So I don't, in combination with those two, I don't see a reason why the UUID should also be different each time.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of like the like, in terms of the like verification intent. Like if I dip two SBOMs and the only thing that's different is the like created timestamp, then I'm gonna feel like, oh, okay, these are SBOMs of the same software created at different times. That's really easy to reason about. Whereas as soon as there start being other differences, it's like, are they the same software? And I think that the other thing that still needs to be a difference, I think we put the version of Syft that made the SBOM in it, because different versions of Syft find different things. Every BOM generated should have a unique serial number, even if the contents of the BOM have not changed over time. Well, thanks, CycloneDX. I guess that's what we got to do there.
the format wars continue. Nothing can be perfect. Everyone has an opinion.
I'm sorry. I just Googled for CycloneDX reproducibility, and I thought, I wonder what they say.
I felt bad saying it earlier, saying like, if the spec doesn't actually explicitly say it should be different each time, then it should be this. There it is.
I love that they're so close, right? Like CycloneDX has so many good things going for it, and so many people prefer it over SPDX for so many like reasons regarding embedded vulnerability data, the ability to do like Vex, like knacking stuff, and then they get to that point and they're like, and now we're going to do something that's going to piss off a lot of people, and they just put something like really scrupulous in their spec like that, and that's where the other side latches on and goes, well, look, they're not very flexible over there, and so then you go round and round and round again fighting about.
And yeah, and that's kind of an interesting like. Yeah, I can see the reproducible build point, but I still think like if somebody gives me an image and they claim it's still the same image, there's like the the signed data station where you sign an SBOM that has the SHA-256 of the image in it, and then like that's difficult to forge kind of thing. So
So, there's lots of opinions, just like, brains.
So
Everyone has one.
Everyone's got a brain.
Everyone's got a brain.
Yeah.
I wasn't bringing this up, just to be clear, to like put a slight on any one technology or like decision. It's just one of those things that like there's two sides to the the coin and different perspectives and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's right. We want to make sure we're spec compliant. That's really important. But then we can offer flexibility through configuration. It's an opt-in choice. Like if you want to run a CycloneDX and override the UUID, it's the same thing as like going in and just changing it manually, like whatever. But these are, that's fine. I think, spec compliant should be our guiding star, and then offer people the ability to do this kind of thing without having to write shell scripts.
Yeah. Does anyone else feel weird about just providing a mechanism for the timestamp to be a lie? And I don't know that, it always could be, right? You can always change the time on your system or edit the file or whatever, right? It's just interesting. Like, I wonder if the spec, like that might be another place where the spec says like call time.now as the document is being written or whatever. So
But again,
I don't know.
override, it's not, yeah, override, I think, yeah, is something that's offering the choice. The default, I think.
Right. No, yeah, obviously the default has to be the current time when we report the current time. Like,
I think it's wise for us to be spec compliant out of the box and provide you with a cabinet full of foot guns if you want to pick one and and use it. That's entirely up to you.
It's my favorite kind of software.
Excellent.
I'm American. The bigger the guns, the better.
Wonderful. That was a good discussion. I really appreciate that. Thank you for all of you actually for bringing that along and discussing it because that was good.
So for that one, I think I'm going to follow.
Did we get an outcome?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with the user since I had the last comment on this one. The comment from Will really resonated with me with, I think deterministic UID, we spent so much time as a team like circling on what does this actually mean? And we had to read the code. So that's indicative of a bad name. Let's figure out, not a bad name, it's just the name could be better. Let's find the naming scheme that we like. I'll tag probably Will in the final, like, does this look good? And then if that's good, with the change, we'll merge. And then that will be, because the functionality is good, it works. We're in the, not bike shedding, but we're in the, what does the usability of this feel like? Change that, and it's something we would very much enjoy having in Syft.
I have one more comment, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. But
No.
I think it might be important, which is I think we should think hard about the material that's being used as input to determine the deterministic UUID to ensure, like, to the best of our knowledge, you won't actually have two different SBOMs that will result in the same deterministic UUID.
yeah, and that's
Because
a good point.
I've done stuff like this before, and like the technique I've leaned on, which is kind of expensive, is you generate the entire document, get the hash of the entire thing, and then add the hash. That's like the last thing you do, because it's the only way I know of for sure to say, like, it is exactly the same thing no matter what. You can't have two documents that are identical and or that have an identical UUID that aren't actually identical documents.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's just, I hate to bring it up, but just like think hard about that implementation to try to avoid, collisions essentially.
It might also be worth understanding, as you said, the performance implications. Like, we have occasionally, in order to be very sure that we're making a deterministic ID, taken a digest of a very large file and heard about that in GitHub issues. So, we want to make sure that, and that like it's deterministic and
it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you know how this goes, right? Because like, if it looked good to me, I looked at it when it was on the screen. It was like the package set, the license set, and one other set. I mean, intuitively, the chances of two different things having identical both orderings and content you might actually be able to argue, well, effectively they are the same thing, even if there's one tiny little difference somewhere else. If those
We're also
effectively talking about the same set of material, like that, it looked pretty good to me. I thought like one more thought process there might not be a bad idea, just to make sure.
the use of the list of file identifiers. So those compose with the packages, compose with the licenses.
Yeah, it seemed solid to me.
Files, packages, licenses. What is out, like, it's like the negative thinking. What is outside that set that could be different? So if both documents have the same of those sets, what thing do we scan that's outside of that could be different, that would cause same ID for different document?
That's right. And I don't know, like maybe their relationships, or I don't know.
It's true. You could have packages. Yeah, we'll look at more options around that to make sure that it's solid.
Cool.
And to be clear, it might be that implementation is like, that's good. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to point it out as a potential thing to think about.
Yeah, got to prove it to ourselves. Okay.
Do we have something that can fit in 10 minutes or does anyone have a thing? Do you want to just dive into an issue or something? Any that you'd like to pick up?
We can take a look at that top false positive. That's interesting. Might be something with how we're parsing the pearls or something.
So this
Oh,
is
it's
Grype
because the
2838. Sorry, I just have to say that out loud so that my AI overlord can hear it.
this one is because the root of this is because the Perl spec for Golang packages and modules was written before modules existed. So I talked with Weston about this one. This is actually like that thing that you see on the screen is technically a valid Perl, but only because the spec hasn't been updated since modules were written. Like what I would expect, and I have like some hidden knowledge because I looked at this one earlier. API auth Kubernetes in that path has its own Go mod if you went to like the Vault repo. So technically they're two modules. So I would expect like a Perl for Vault, and I would expect a Perl for Kubernetes because of the Go mod file. That's how I would go about thinking about this one. And personally, I was like, I don't even think Syft should be generating that. I think Syft should be bisecting those two and creating separate either packages or separate identifiers for those things.
I see. So okay, so let's back up a little bit. So this Perl, it has a. So I guess there's two sort of packages. Is the user? Can we open those Go package, the package.go.dev links?
Also, to be clear, that PRL the user is providing that issue further down, it's a PRL that Syft is generating. They're not like magically just being like, what if Grype works with this? Like
I wanted to ask that, yeah.
Yeah.
Syft is generating a URL with a subpath component?
For Go.
Interesting.
So Go, and I'm looking at the Perl spec Golang definition. As the subpath is used to point to a subpath inside a package. And so I think the thinking here is that I don't know, this seems like a weird. So we've got this, right? So if we're at the package.go.dev, the top level HashiCorp Vault has had a bunch of stuff disclosed about it sort of recently. But let's go to the other one, the other package.go.dev link. And you can see this one doesn't have, unless you're looking at a different spot, doesn't have the wall of disclosures. But
Yeah,
I would expect, you see how the path on this Chrome tab is github.com HashiCorp Vault API auth Kubernetes. Like, why isn't that the Perl Syft is generating? Is that what you're saying, Chris? Like, we'd expect the package name to be that whole string in.
1,000%. Yeah, and that's what I didn't get time to investigate before this meeting, which was I want to see what the source is that Syft is analyzing that gets it to that subpath Perl. Because my expectation, like if I were to write up an issue for this, if I Syft targeted just the Vault library with the Go mod at the top level, I would expect the PRL for Vault at that top level, but I'd also expect a separate package represented by the other Go mod file that Alan has highlighted on here. I'd expect basically two packages and n number more, where n is the number of Go mod files like within this whole repo or within this target. And they would all have their specific Perls that highlighted their path and the version that it's pinned at. And it looks like Kubernetes, like the Vault people are smart enough that they were like, yeah, we're going to use the same tags for all these libraries. But there are cases in Go where I don't know how they do this, but they associate tags to different commits of the submodules that then like are versioned differently. So there's some additional complexity here that we're not encountering with this example, but yeah, that's what I wanted to figure out for this, for what the user is supplying here.
Looks like the user.
The last comment on the issue, they put together a GitHub repo with examples of Go mods, Go sums showing the inputs that lead to the unexpected outputs. So that might satisfy what you're asking about, Chris.
Oh, it definitely did. Yeah, I saw them post back last night, and I was like, man, I wish I could look at this. I had a lot of other stuff I was working on, but I was very curious because when I first came across this, I was like, how are we generating this? And they came back and were just like, Syft is generating this Perl, and that's when I was piqued of like, oh, we got to figure this out.
Looking at the GitHub repo for HashiCorp Vault, in that subpath, there's an additional go.mod file. And I think since Go sort of began life in a mono repo, you could just have modules inside modules, and it's okay.
A lot of people do like a shared library pattern where they do like a library shared by like multiple binaries, and you've got like 4 different Go mods under the commands that all pull from that library. So there's, 1,000 ways to bake a cake in the Go world. But are we kind of like, does everyone else get the kind of like, question mark about that Perl? Like that's one that, even though it's kind of valid to the spec, we should probably be leaning more into the multiple modules and trying to like separate those out and give each module its own Perl instead of this like leading into this subpath parsing.
Maybe. So
I can't have an opinion because I don't exactly know enough about what it means. In terms of like, can I just have that submodule installed? Because like effectively we want to be able to report what's installed. Like what's here, right? Is Vault installed or is only that submodule installed?
And that would be interesting. Can we look at the like Go mod in the false positive folder? That might tell us, but I'd be interested in
SDK.
I'd be
Not the same thing. I was looking at that too. It's
I'd be interested in stepping through Syft's like generation of this SBOM to try to see like where we're generating this and what it looks like.
I think to Dan, I know you're thinking SDK is not the same, but SDK also has its own Go mod, which is why it can exist in a mod file like that. So there's like the 2 examples on the pull request and issue are not in isolation. This library shows that there's lots of Go mods that can be looked up.
Yep.
I think the conclusion on this one is I really appreciate the PR and the attempt to solve this one, but to no fault of the user's own of like attempting to solve this, we have some deeper questions we have to answer about the PURL generation for Go modules when we do this kind of analysis. So until we can answer those questions, until like we stick one of the maintainers on and like find the truth of how this is being generated and what should be generated, we can't thumbs up accept this or thumbs down reject it, because we're trying to figure out what the answer should be for the PRL, and we don't know if this PR addresses that or if we think there should be another way at the moment.
The other question I have is, should Grype accept eBay? Because as far as we can tell, like there's 2 questions, right? There should Syft generate this Perl that looks like this, and then there's if someone shows up with a Perl that looks like this from wherever, how should Grype match on it? And those are really different questions, because I'm sort of inclined to, because the Perl spec officially allows a subpath to point to a subpath, we should probably do our best with that. Maybe we need to normalize it inside Grype or something. So yeah, I'm not sure. This is an interesting one. Also, if you're running HashiCorp Vault and you haven't upgraded, go upgrade. There's lots of big things It got disclosed pretty recently.
Syft would like to say there's only 5 minutes left, so Syft is just popping up to say 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Syft.
Yeah, we'll adjourn. Syft has spoken. The wise owl.
Is this? Do you have everything you need for this one, or is this?
Besides time, yes.
The reason I ask, I didn't want to cut you short, but there's a chat for a question from Henry in the chat, and I wondered if you can power through it in 5 minutes. The question is they're asking about grant issue. Well, not specifically about grant issue 176, but grant issue 176. There's a conversation going on, and the word somewhere in here, rewrite, is mentioned, where you're discussing like various things to do with grant. And the point Henry was saying is we're really keen on it, and I don't want to contribute if it gets rewritten anyway. So I think it's just a worry about stability of grant in terms of like code base changing dramatically or getting a rewrite or something. I can't.
Which one is Henry? I assume this PR. Congrats on getting it out. So yes, Henry, the PR you linked, which is the module PR for Syft. Alex is working through reviewing it, making sure that gives us all of the module information for Go rather than just parsing the Go mod file. The reason we do that is because that gives us more detailed information about the Go mod cache locally. And if you have the Go toolchain installed when you run Syft, we can get the full license information for all the modules nested recursively for a directory scan for projects like we just looked at with Vault. So once that merges, Grant gets no changes, no code base changes at all. It just pulls in new Syft, gets released. There's the big pull request that's on right now, which Alan helped me look at today, which addresses some performance concerns and some panics when we're accessing the license classifier concurrently. To the issue that you linked and stability of the code base, I would say if you want to work on this one, let's just link up and talk. Let me get your contact information, or I can reach out to you on GitHub. We can find a way where both of us can be on a meeting together, and we can talk about what design of that issue you like, and we can get it implemented. But I would say that one should land after this one does, because this isn't like an aggressive rework, but there are changes in how we do the casing, and there's a little bit of guts and options being done in here that could grant/case.go is being touched, which is where we would probably be doing the work for the issue you highlighted. So yeah, conflicts could happen. So it's Syft merge, this merge, new feat. Then the next thing up is the feature that you're asking for. If that answers the question.
I knew you'd be able to get it done in under 5 minutes. I just want to reinforce that suggestion that you could have a bit of time, just half an hour, a cup of coffee, discuss it. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. That is absolutely a possibility. We can't fill our days up with every user of Syft having a Zoom call, personal Zoom call. But I think if there's something important like this, that then it should be. Henry says there's a misunderstanding. I just mean you also wrote in the issue that you rewrote the config. Okay, so it wasn't a big worry about rewrites. It was just a minor update. Okay, cool. So yeah, you two get in contact. He has your contact details. You have his, and I'm sure you can have a wonderful discussion about the future of Grant. I think we're done. Yes. Thank you, chaps. As always, I come into these things and think, we've not got anything to talk about this week, and then we're right up to the wire. So thank you all, and thank you, Henry and Esme and Josh. Yes, Henry says yes, please talk all. So thank you all again, and we will see you next time, maybe with some different faces. Who knows? Take care, everyone. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. That's coming soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
See you soon.